Every empire received fragments of the Kellari's transmissions, grainy footage of Terran ships igniting their engines, the yawning of colossal hangar doors, the annihilation of modern craft as if swatting flies. The galaxy reeled. The Olith Consortium locked down their borders, terrified that dormant Terran fleets might lurk near their colonies. The Dominion began frantic weapons development, whispering that humanity had outbuilt time itself. Even the mighty Zorathi, long smug in their belief of Terran extinction, issued emergency decrees forbidding travel into former human space. But fear was not just in governments. Ordinary citizens traded rumors in hushed tones. If the Terran ruins are waking, how many more are out there? Those weren't just relics, they were traps waiting. Maybe the humans aren't gone at all, maybe they're watching. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. VI, the last lesson of Earth. No envoy ever received a transmission from the awakened fleet. No signal of diplomacy. No declaration of intent. The Terran warships simply moved, patrolling their systems with quiet menace, like wolves returning to a den no one dared approach. It became clear that humanity's genius had not been in conquest alone but in foresight. They had not left ruins. They had left guardians, an arsenal slumbering beneath dust and silence, waiting for the day it was needed. The galaxy which once mocked their extinction now whispered in fear, because if one fleet had awoken, then countless others might still lie hidden. Whole armadas preserved in forgotten shipyards, buried under moons, sealed inside asteroid caverns, waiting for the same signal. No one knew what had triggered the awakening. No one dared test if the fleets would cross beyond human space. The only certainty was this: humans did not vanish, they prepared. They turned ruins into weapons, silence into storms. And now the galaxy lived in dread of the day the next graveyard would open its doors. In the grand archives of the Velari conquered, humanity was nothing more than a footnote, a cautionary tale of ambition turned to ash. The record spoke of a turbulent species that once reached for the stars with fire and fury, but then vanished. No empires, no colonies, no successors, just silence. For the conquered and its neighboring polities, the human extinction was no mystery. Their wars burned too hot, their technology too reckless. A species that consumed itself was hardly worth remembering. Entire star systems once seeded by Terrans now lay empty, their ruins scattered and mute beneath the slow drift of the cosmos. Alien scholars lectured that Earth-born humanity was a natural lesson in hubris. Reach too far, burn too brightly, and you leave nothing but dust. And for centuries that was truth. The galaxy moved on. Trade flourished, borders shifted, alliances fractured and reformed. Humanity remained a ghost people, their legacy buried under eons of silence. Or so it seemed. Whispers from forgotten stars. It began with faint signals. Static-laced transmissions detected by a Keloth survey vessel skimming the edge of the Perseus arm. At first, it was dismissed as background noise, the dying echoes of a pulsar. But the patterns were too precise, bursts of data locked in military encryption not seen in millennia. The signals originated from a system marked abandoned in every archive. Procyon Delta, once a Terran stronghold, now a graveyard. Curious, the Keloth filed their report, but it was buried beneath bureaucracy. Ghost signals from dead worlds were not uncommon after all. But then the signals repeated, stronger, clearer. An Arithian deep space array triangulated the emissions, confirming the source. An orbital debris field around a shattered moon. Except the debris wasn't behaving like wreckage. It drifted with purpose, locking into geometric formations. The galaxy's powers watched with mild amusement, a handful of derelict Terran hulls stirring after 1,000 years. Nothing to fear. Surely some automated system still clung to existence, firing their last dying routines. But beneath that dismissal lurked unease. Terran engineering had always been different, brutal, overbuilt. What if these echoes weren't simply random flickers? What if something remained? The graveyard stirs. Exploration fleets were dispatched. At first, small scout vessels to probe the ruins. Their scans revealed kilometers-long hulls, scarred and silent, orbiting in perfect symmetry. Massive shipyards clung to the bones of the shattered moon, dormant scaffolds looming like skeletal arms over the void. At first glance, they were nothing but relics. Hull plating pitted by micrometeoroids, engines cold, banners of a dead species faded to gray. The alien observers transmitted reports dripping with condescension. See, the humans built their ships to last, but even steel rots in time. These are just corpses adrift in the void. And then the power readings spiked. One by one, ancient reactors pulsed with life. Entire moonside grids lit up with a glow not seen in ages, bathing the debris field in cold white light. Ship after ship exhaled vents of gas as cryoseals cracked, systems rebooting. What the galaxy had called ruins revealed themselves not as dead, but as sleeping. And their awakening was not random. It was disciplined, coordinated, deliberate. The graveyard was a fleet. The awakening of steel giants. At first, the observers didn't understand. They watched in awe as kilometer-long dreadnoughts pivoted in perfect synchronization, their engines igniting with thunderous bursts that echoed through the void. The shipyards themselves trembled as construction bays powered on, their ancient machinery groaning back to life, as though centuries of silence had been nothing more than a pause. Communications arrays, dormant for ages, aligned and transmitted bursts of code across subspace. The encryption was unmistakable, Terran military protocol, unbroken by time, as valid today as the day it was written. Every ship obeyed. Every system recognized the command chain. Even after millennia, the code was uncorrupted, unchallenged, unbroken. It dawned on the galaxy with chilling clarity. Humanity had not died. Humanity had prepared. What outsiders thought were ruins were in fact vaults, ships sealed in self-repairing dry docks, reactors entombed in hibernation states, weapons cocooned until the hour of reawakening. This was no accident of machinery. This was design. The humans had built not just fleets, but storms preserved in amber. The fleet moves. Panic spread across the observers. Scouts fled, broadcasting frantic warnings to their homeworlds. But flight did not mean escape. The Terran fleet moved. Effortless, flawless, terrifying. Dreadnoughts and carriers slid into formation with mathematical precision, their hulls bristling with weapons thought impossible by modern design standards. Ships that should have been brittle relics maneuvered with predatory grace, their engines outpacing the fastest conquered cruisers. And then the weapons tested themselves. Beams of directed energy lanced across empty space, carving through asteroids with surgical accuracy. Kinetic cannons roared to life, pulverizing rock into dust with salvos of tungsten. Missile silos opened, launching warheads that streaked across the void like falling stars, then self-destructed in disciplined drills. It wasn't an attack, it was a demonstration. The galaxy's modern fleets looked pitiful in comparison. Their weapons seemed like toys, their hulls fragile, their coordination sloppy. These Terran vessels, asleep for ages, moved with the cohesion of a force that had never forgotten war. The ruins had become a storm. Terror across the stars. News of the awakening spread like wildfire. Entire governments convened emergency sessions. Border fleets scrambled to mobilize. Panic rippled through markets, through militaries, through the minds of every species that had once believed humanity gone forever. The Velari conquered, so proud in its lectures about human extinction, now faced whispers in its own halls. If this was their forgotten fleet, what do their living forces look like? Because the question could not be ignored. If humanity's ruins were this dangerous, then where was humanity itself? Were these ships guardians waiting for their masters' return? Or were they the masters, AI-commanded vessels carrying humanity's will across eternity? Every signal the Terran fleet transmitted was encrypted beyond comprehension. No outsiders could intercept. No outsiders could interpret. All the galaxy could do was watch as the Armada stretched its wings across the stars. And the unthinkable dawned. For humanity, extinction might never have been the end. It may have only been camouflage. The weapon of memory. It became clear that the ruins were more than a fleet. They were a weapon of memory, a message to the galaxy. For when the first alien ships dared to approach in peace, transmitting offers of negotiation, the Terran fleet did not respond with hostility. Instead, it released a broadcast, not in alien tongues but in the ancient languages of Earth. A single phrase repeated endlessly, translated by long-forgotten linguistics engines into every dialect known across the stars. Humanity remembers. That was all. No declaration of war, no statement of peace. Just the undeniable truth that humanity, thought long dead, was alive in steel and fire, watching, waiting. The galaxy trembled. Empires that had once laughed at Terran folly now whispered fears in their war councils. If they preserved one arsenal, how many others lie buried? If one graveyard can awaken as a fleet, how many more storms wait beneath the dust? The shadow of storms. In the weeks that followed, the Terran fleet did not rampage. It did not conquer. It simply moved, drifting through abandoned human space with the dignity of an empire returned from death. And everywhere it went, the stars seemed dimmer. Trade routes bent around its path. Armadas shadowed it from afar, too fearful to draw near. No one dared to fire. No one dared to test the strength of legends reborn. The galaxy had mocked the ruins. Now the ruins were gods of war reborn, their silent march a reminder that humans never abandoned their creations. They built for forever. And the lesson spread like wildfire. Humans don't just build fleets. They preserve storms, lock them in silence, and wait for the day the stars forget. But the stars remembered now, and dread returned with them. Aftermath, a galaxy in fear. By the time the Terran Armada vanished into the dark, leaving nothing but fatting ion trails, the galaxy had already changed. The Velari conquered redrew its defense lines. The Erythians tripled their weapons spending. The Keloth banned all expeditions near Terran ruins. But none of it mattered. The fear was already planted. For the truth echoed in every council chamber, whispered in every shadow. If this is what humanity left behind as ruins, what else have they hidden? Perhaps there were fleets slumbering in nebulae. Perhaps arsenals entombed beneath shattered worlds. Perhaps entire armadas drifting in intergalactic dark, waiting for a signal only they could hear. The galaxy would never again look at silence the same way. Every dead station, every abandoned field of wreckage, every ruin in the void now carried a new, haunting possibility. And so, the legend of humanity changed. No longer a warning of extinction, no longer a footnote in history. Instead, they became the storm that sleeps, the architects of terror not by presence, but by memory, the keepers of weapons that outlast time itself. The galaxy understood at last. Humanity never truly died. They simply became the silence before thunder. And thunder always returns.